William Shakespeare, 1564 AD to whenever he died, was well known for borrowing from existing literature when writing his plays. Romeo and Juliet is pretty much lifted entirely from Arthur Brooks' poem, The Tragical History of Romulus and Juliet. Dude didn't even change the names. And as recent Shakespeare scholarship has established, the famed play William Shakespeare Presents Hamlet was lifted wholesale from the volume you are about to enjoy. To Be or Not to Be. To Be or Not to Be is both the earliest recorded example of the books as game genre, as well as the first instance ever in the then newish English language that was kicking around of an adventure being chosen by you, the reader. We've gone ahead and added illustrations, plus we've taken the liberty of marking with tiny York skulls the choices Shakespeare himself made when he plagiarized this book back in olden times. They're there in case you wish to put yourself in Shakespeare's shoes, reading this book as he did, stealing plot elements wholesale, and classing up the language as he/you went/go. However, that is not the only way to read this book. Feel free to explore your other options, as each time you read this book, you can go on a different adventure, assuming you don't read the book like 3 quadrillion times, at which point the adventures will start to repeat, and they'll probably seem pretty familiar long before then anyway. Now, take yourself back to history, when ghosts walked the earth and nobody knew velociraptors were even a thing. Steel yourself to experience the magic of Shakespeare as it was meant to be experienced, in a non-deterministic narrative structure where you end up thinking maybe you made a wrong decision, so you mark the pages you were just on, so you can always go back and make a different choice if you die for some dumb reason. To be or not to be, that is the adventure. Choose your character. Man, what if I just read the acknowledgements instead? No book comes together without an author feeling like Thon's in debt to someone. Thanks to Metafilter for all the terrific advice on how to dispose of a body and not get caught. Spoiler alert, there are murders in this book. They have a page just about this, did you know that? They're one of the top search results for how to dispose of a body. And I guess also thanks to the Canadian Security Intelligence Service for not getting me in trouble, yet, after I ran all those searches for how to dispose of a body, and I want to know how to get rid of a dead human body, and gross dead body, plus how to hide it. And what if I committed the murder act? How do I ditch the body and not go to jail? It's an emergency. Thanks also to Chef Michael Smith, Emily Horn, and William Shakespeare for the stew recipe. Spoiler alert, you can learn to make stew in this book too. It's not murders all the time. For the expansive knowledge of boats and the seas in which they sail. Spoiler alert, play your cards right in this book, and you just might gain command of a pirate ship. Just be cool. And for ripping me off and making this book so famous. But which thank you applies to which person? That is for you to decide. Yes, even here in this acknowledgement parenthetical, it's up to you to choose your own adventure. But I mean, come on, it's pretty obvious. Thanks to all my artist friends who drew all these pretty pictures in the book. You've made death into a visually stunning treat. And thanks to Chrissy Calhoun for copy editing this book and fixing all my dumb mistakes. Any that remain, I added in afterwards because of brain problems. Finally, thanks to Joey Comeau for his skills at chess, Ray Fox for his skills at Mad Libs, my extremely awesome wife Jen for being extremely awesome, and to my brother, Victor, who confirmed over walkie-talkie that the idea for this book was rad. And thanks to you for buying this book, or at least picking it up and flipping to this page. That took initiative. As a reward, you get to continue enjoying reading this book. Okay, I'm ready now. I will choose my character. No. I'd rather read more acknowledgements. You know what? I want to know more about the author before I commit to anything. You know what? I want to be the author before I commit to anything. You are now Ryan North. This is weird. So listen, you just had the idea to write a book where you can play as Hamlet or Ophelia or even the ghost. Right now, the book exists as mere potential. On one hand, you can make it happen, but it'll take months of work. On the other hand, ideas are like chest hairs. You have so many of them that it's hard to get attached to any one in particular. Plus, new ones are popping up all the time. You go skateboarding to decide what to do. You're getting mad air while pulling off some insanely rad skateboard tricks while also munching on pizza. And it hits you. Writing this book is something you want to do. You say goodbye to all the babes and go home to write. Almost a year later, you write the last ending for the last version of reality you've chosen to put in this book. It's done. It's a pretty solid first draft. A few months after that, You've smushed it into a pretty solid second draft, and then months after that, a totally rad final draft. All that's left now is to do a final read-over to make sure there are no typos, inconsistencies, or errors. You grab some snacks, sit down, and bring your draft so close to your face that you can't really see anything else. And then you start reading. These are the words you read. You have just been born. Congratulations, good work on that thing. Now, surprise! Babies are boring, so we're gonna jump ahead in time to a point where you're an adult and you've already lived a bunch of your life. But I promise most of what we're skipping over was really dull. You ate a lot and slept a lot and made some friends, tears were shed, makeouts were totally had, etc. It was a bunch of high school stuff. The awesome stuff starts now. So, let's begin, my friend. Remind me again who you are. Are you Ophelia? She's an awesome lady in her late 20s with a calm, competent, and resourceful demeanor. She's got a +1 bonus to science, but she's also got a -1 weakness against water, so heads up. Hamlet? He's an emo teen in his early 30s. Also, he's the Prince of Denmark. Hamlet has a +1 resistance to magic, but there's no magic in this adventure, so this never gets mentioned again as of right now. Hamlet Sr.? He's the King of Denmark, 50 years old. He's super good at fighting and leading men into battle in naps. Let's say +1 to each? Look, bottom line, he's an unstoppable machine of death, and should you choose to be him, you may experience kingly glory. Play as Ophelia. Play as Hamlet. Play as Hamlet Sr. You are Hamlet. You're 30 years old and you're back living at home, but it's okay, because your home is a castle. That's right, ladies, you're a prince. Things have been rough lately. You had been trying to focus on your studies at Wittenberg University, where you and your bros, Horatio, Rosencrantz, and Guildenstern, all hang out. But you were called home because your father died. Then, your dead dad's brother, Claudius, married your mom, Gertrude, 2 weeks later. Yep, it's made you kind of upset. You raced home to comfort her, but she's married your uncle, and that is weird. You feel weird. Right now, you're in the audience chamber of your father's castle, here in sunny Denmark. King Claudius is here, addressing his court. Laertes and Polonius are here too. Laertes is kind of a jerk, and Polonius is his father. Polonius is also the father of Ophelia, whom you're totally sweet on. She's not here, though. Who knows what adventure she's having as we speak, while you're stuck in this drafty castle room listening to other people talk about their feelings. Speaking of speaking, just now Laertes says something about how now that Claudius is king, and he's attended the coronation, is it okay for him to go back to France? Claudius says, sure. Wait a minute. You'd love to leave too and go back to school, away from this weird incesty thing your mother's gotten herself into. It's so gross and weird. Ask Claudius for permission to go back to school. Hold your tongue and just wait around. You hold up your hand and open your mouth, but before you can say anything, Claudius addresses you directly, calling you his son. On the one hand, that's entirely appropriate, especially since he just married your mom like 2 weeks ago. But on the other hand, he has brought creepy uncle to new heights. Points for that, maybe? Insult him under your breath by saying you're more than kin, i.e., you're related more than once now as both father/son and uncle/nephew, but less than kind, i.e., this relationship you're in is unnatural. In real life, people think up zingers like this on the spot all the time, so this totally makes sense. Say, you're not my real dad. And while you're busy doing that, your friend Horatio bumps into you and tells you, A, he's in town for your dad's funeral/mom's wedding, and that they serve leftover appetizers from one at the other. B, ghosts are real. C, he's seen one and so have a bunch of other guys. D, it keeps showing up at the same time, and E, he's pretty sure it's the ghost of your dad. Finally, some adventure, some closure. You agree that you'll come with him tonight to see the ghost when it shows up again. It's such an obvious decision that it kind of feels like you don't even have a choice in the matter. Agree to go with Horatio tonight to see the ghost when it shows up again. I'll be there, 11:30 sharp, you say, and Horatio leaves, satisfied. Well, now you have 8 hours to blow before it's time to meet ghosts. What do you want to do, Hamlet? Be Ophelia for a while. Play solitaire. You, Hamlet, Prince of all Denmark, are now sitting in your bedroom and playing solitaire for hours and hours and hours and hours, which is a pretty colossally useless waste of your time, especially since you keep cheating. A 5 goes on top of a 3? Hamlet, really? Anyway, at this point, we're 15 games in, and wow, if you're not careful, people might start saying that your tragic flaw is, I don't know, inaction. Eventually the sun goes down, and it's almost 11:30, which hopefully you remember as the appointed hour Horatio told you about, wherein a ghost keeps showing up to bother him. Time to go meet that ghost, huh? Meet up with Horatio and bust some myths about actual ghosts. You and Horatio go to where he saw the ghost the first time. Now we play the waiting game, says Horatio. He's interrupted by the sound of trumpets. You look at him and raise an eyebrow. They make that noise to warn everyone that King Claudius is getting wasted, he says. Those trumpets go off every night around this time. He sighs. Denmark, he says. At that exact moment, something insanely crazy happens. What the frig? I'll tell you what the frig. A ghost is here. Don't freak out, but right now you're staring cold in the face of a specter. You can't even imagine how crazy this whole situation is. If you're getting too scared, read this next clause over and over until you're not insane with fear anymore. Everything will be okay. All right, okay, we can do this. With your last shred of sanity, you quickly glance at the ghost, and then you worry that if you stare at the ghost too hard, your brain will realize it's looking at something so insanely impossible that you'll just black out. Anyway, this ghost. You can see through it, but only a little. It's weird. And I'll tell you what the frig else. This ghost does look like your dad, and he's getting closer. Stare at the ghost intently and black out as your mind shuts down. Don't stare at the ghost too intently and try to figure out what it wants. Run away. Are you my dad? I mean, my ghost dad? You ask the ghost, but it says nothing. Instead, the ghost beckons to you. He clearly wants you to follow him and leave Horatio behind. I don't know, is this safe? Can ghosts kill people? Can ghosts kill people? You ask Horatio. I don't know, man, but I really don't think you should be alone with that thing, he says, clearly leaving no ball untripped in his own freakout. Hamlet, man, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. I gotta say, he yells, his quivering finger pointing at the ghost. Well, duh. I'm gonna do it, you say, and you follow the ghost into darkness. Go on to say, by that I mean, I'm going to take this last chance to run for it. You follow the ghost into the mist. After walking for what seems like forever, you get tired of walking. I'm tired of walking. Are you? Don't freak out, but right now you're staring. Don't freak out, but right now you're staring cold in the face of a specter. You can't even imagine how crazy this whole situation is. If you're getting too scared, read this next clause over and over until you're not insane. Are you my dad? I mean, my ghost dad? You ask the ghost, but it says nothing. Instead, you follow the ghost into the mist. After walking for what seems like forever, you get tired of walking. I'm tired of walking, you say. You sit down. Pretty sure I'm done walking. Yeah, I'm out. The ghost stops and speaks to you for the first time, its voice issuing forth from lungs that no longer breathe air.
Hamlet, it is I, your father. Look, I can't stay around here forever, so you need to listen to what I tell you. I didn't die of old age. I did some digging around and it turns out I was murdered. By Claudius.
You gasp, shocked and enraged, killed by his own brother.
He did it while I slept. I was walking in a garden, and you know how gardens are really boring, right?
You nod. They're boring even for people who like them.
Exactly, says Ghost Dad. Well, it was so boring I fell asleep, and while I was sleeping, he poured poison in my ear.
I didn't know poisons work that way, you say.
That's what I said,
shouts your dad, throwing his hands above his head in frustration. He starts to pace back and forth.
Anyway, I want you to take revenge on him for me. I don't know, cuss him out or something. Pull out his chair when he's about to sit down. Offer him a high five, but then when he goes to high five you, pull your hand away and say, too slow. Or should he offer you a high five, you must leave him hanging.
I could murder him, you offer. After all, he is sleeping with Mom. Your dad stops pacing and stares at you.
He's what?
Tell him they got married 2 weeks after the funeral. Tell him, haha, you were just kidding.